Tighthead Brewing Company is not just Chicago's premier location to watch rugby and enjoy quality ales and lagers. It is also a great place to enjoy local acts performing live music every Thursday and Saturday nights. Additionally, their Wednesday night trivia nights are something not to be missed. Tighthead is located in Mundelein, Illinois, and easily accessible for many Chicagoans, as it is just steps away from the metro. Owner Bruce Durr and the Tighthead staff are dedicated to ensure your microbrew experience is as tight as their beers. Bruce's love for rugby extends beyond the origin of his brewery's name. Tighthead is committed to supporting the rugby community. This includes his support for Lake County RFC and our own Rugby Rant podcast show. Tighthead's tap room is like the familiar rugby clubhouse in which friends and teammates can meet, socialize, and enjoy the wide variety of brews on tap. Regardless of whether your palate enjoys a good IPA or dark barrel-aged brew, Tighthead can deliver. Hey, Chicago, when you want rugby, Tighthead Brewing Company will satisfy your thirst. Tighthead, it's worth more than a try.
And welcome, Rugby Rant fans. I'm the big guy, Scott Ferrara. That over there is Rob the Hammer Hammerschmidt. And we're here to bring you episode 86 of the Rugby Rant.
86.
I know. I can't believe it. We're almost up to 87. That was my birth year. I always like to throw my birth year out there to Rob so he can be like, man.
I was freaking in high school.
I was going to say, I was going to say, oh, I was a college senior or something in 87. But, you know, I always got to poke the bear a little bit, but it's fun. We love it.
It's an old bear.
Absolutely. But thank you guys so much for watching. Welcome to our show. And we're going to hop right into our around the pitch segment. I'm going to start it off here, and I have a very interesting stat, and it's phrased very delicately and intricately by our buddy Doug Coyle from DJ Coyle Rugby. So right now with the standings in the Eastern Conference, you have Rugby ATL sitting pretty at the number one spot with 20 points. And you have New York sitting in the second place spot with 19 points and New England Free Jacks in third place with 19 points. And here's how the tiebreakers went for New England and New York. Very interesting. It went to the fourth tiebreaker. So obviously they're both 4-1, right? They're all 4-1, I believe. But ATL has the bonus points, so they're 20 points, right? Then New York and the Free Jacks have the 19 points. They each have 4 wins. They have the same point differential, which is the second tiebreak at plus 33. They have the same total tries scored, which is the third tiebreaker at 19 apiece. And then you have to go into the fourth tiebreaker, which is total tries minus total tries conceded. To York is a +6, while New England is a +5. If you can't get excited that we had to go to a fourth tiebreaker to figure out, you know, who's going to be 2 and 3 right now in the league, I mean, it's just so, I can't. The excitement about being it so tight up top in the Eastern Conference, I just love it, Rob.
You know what's funny you say that is I was looking at the standings this week and I'm like, man, the Western Conference is really up for grabs, and that's true. Right? It's really up for grabs. And then you look at the East and you kind of think, well, you know, ATL's got a pretty good lead, you know, but the truth of the matter is it's also up for grabs as well, just by the pure fact of what you're talking about. It makes for really exciting rugby, and it's certainly going to keep fans entertained throughout the season.
Baby, what do you got first?
Oh, what do I got? All right. Well, I'm going to plug something a little fun here to start off with. I didn't pick this up week 1, but I picked it up later on. DTH Vander Merva. Each week he is supporting a different charity with a different hair color. So if this doesn't get you excited for social media pundits who kind of want to watch what the different hair color look like, we've got a few posts happening right here. Okay. But this week 6, against Utah, he was sporting the green hair. He was injured, but before the game, he had the green hair, and he was supporting it in honor of Make March Matter and the LA Children's Hospital, right? And so for those of you guys who want to support it, especially those out in LA, makemarchmatter.org, follow it, support it, give a little bit of money, even if it's $1 or $2, every little bit helps. And of course, you're helping children. And I want to thank DTH for supporting charities like this and doing it in his own unique way.
Dude, that's really friggin' cool. I really like that. It's very interesting. And hairstyle is a big thing in rugby. You know, I talk about it on the Rooster Booster. Me and Mike Perazini talk about it with the Rudy guys and who has the best hair and what kind of hairstyles are going on and this and other thing. And it's hair culture really creeping into the sport. And I'm glad he's using it in a way to help other people through charity. It's great. So my second topic of the week, right? We're talking about women's rugby. We're talking about the Falcons that face the Wales team. And not only did the USA Falcons get the win 31-23, if you look at the roster, let's see, all of the women on the roster, except for one, Olivia Ortiz, their club is in the UK. So we had Hope Rogers, Exeter Chiefs. Who else? Alicia Washington, Worcester Warriors. Kate Zachary, obviously, Exeter Chiefs. Carly Waters, Saracens. Alev Kelter, Saracens. February Player of the Month for Premier 15s. Tess Fury, Railway Union RFC, which is winning the championship in the Irish All League. Gabby Carterna, who didn't play, Exeter Chief. So all 23 women, except for one, is already playing professionally or for a university in the UK. So I just found that interesting.
That's awesome to see the women's game spreading so significantly, particularly in the UK, and hopefully we can see that bleed over into the United States with the success these women have here in the UK, bring it back home and make it successful here in the United States. And that can lead to greater and better things for the women's game in the US. So for my Around the Pitch segment number 2, I'm going to throw a shout out to a friend of the show, guys who supported us. He supports us so much. He's jumping on the Super Brew. He's even contested a little bit. And that guy is Marquise. I like to call him Keese Goodwin. Again, friend of the show, but he's also an MLR official. He's been an AR for a couple seasons, but he finally got to get on the whistle in the middle in his first match. It happened to be NOLA versus Dallas. And I got to tell you, I thought he did a tremendous job. For those that watched the match, one of the things that I really liked about him is his clarity and communication to the players on the field. I mean, it was so noticeable that the commentators, Dallin Stanford, and I believe who else was on that former Rooney coach? Mike
Tolkien.
They were commenting on the fact that we could even hear it on TV, that he was communicating, hey, you got to get your binds up. He was telling people, guys in the malls, hey, you need to come around. You're offsides right now, so you need to move. It was so clear it was coming through on the TV side of things. And it was great to see. Players knew what to expect. And I tell you what, I didn't see a poor call all match. I hope he gets more opportunity. I think we'll get more opportunity. Congratulations to Marquise on his first.
And, the reason why Rob took this topic is because he got to congratulate Marquise first officially. So I let him take the topic because I was very excited. Finally got to meet Marquise face-to-face, the PR7s in Memphis. Yeah. And, I'm hoping he's going to come to Rudy and officiate a match. Speaking of officials, friend of the show, Mike Latch, was officiating the Rudy match last week. Got to hang out with Mikey. Always loved him. So on to my third topic. Unfortunately, Ty couldn't be here with us in this episode. So we each picked up an extra topic. I want to talk about something that continuing from last week's episode. Last week's episode, we asked the question, what can we do to grow the women's game? And I think we're starting to really do it in things like the curtain raiser, right? So it's the women's USA Sevens versus Australia Sevens. I think they played 3 matches as a curtain raiser to the LA Utah match. And I mean, you had your full complement of Sevens roster, and it was kind of gearing them up towards, I think they start, if not this coming weekend, the next weekend in their international schedule again. So it was good to see them play. It was good to see them be the curtain raiser for the professional fans, and maybe get some fans who might not know, women's rugby into the sport on the Sevens side, and also.
You see me in the spotlight, ooh, whatever your style. Show me what you got, 'cause I don't wanna waste my time. See me in the spotlight, ooh, whatever your style. Show me what you got now, come and make it worth my while. Give it to me, I'm worth it. Baby, I'm worth it. I'm worth it. Give me, I'm worth it. Give it to me, I'm worth it. Baby, I'm worth it. I'm worth it. Give me, I'm worth it. Give it to me, I'm worth it.
Also, there was a quote from Nia Tapper She gets asked often what her favorite thing about rugby is, what makes it different from other sports, and her answer was, the answer is pretty simple: respect. The respect that we have for our opponents is unmatched. To be able to beat each other up 1 minute and party our nights away together like the best of friends the next minute, on top of being from different sides of the world, is beautiful. So I love that message from Naya, and I love the fact that USA Game is coming with the MLR, and that was one of our major tenets in our last rant.
Yeah, 100%. And so it was definitely good to see that. We can't wait to see our women compete both in 7s and 15s in the upcoming year. For my last Around the Pitch segment, I'm going to throw a shout out, and maybe it's a shameless plug, but a shout out to our Super Brew winners. For those that haven't jumped on board, you still can jump on board to our Super Brew. You can get in on an opportunity to win every week, because each week the contest almost resets in sorts. So in week 5, big shout out to Sheila Falcon, of course, from the NOLA Gold Diggers. She got a big win. And this week, week 6, Julie Winder won the Super Brew contest. And they were both winners of a $25 gift card from rugbygear.com, one of our sponsors. So they're going to be able to go to rugbygear.com. They can pick up some Rugby Rant gear if they want, which is on sale now. Pick up hoodies, t-shirts, hats, quarter zips, etc. So they're on sale. Got a couple different color combinations there, some pretty great stuff. Or you can pick up some international gear, of course, with the Six Nations happening right now. That would be an opportune time as well. So throw a big shout out to both Julie and Sheila, and a big thank you to American Rugby Outfitters at rugbygear.com. Pick it up. You can use rant code 15 to get 15% off everything in your basket, and orders over $100 in the continental United States, free shipping. So go to rugbygear.com, help us keep the lights on, and throw some appreciation their way. And join Super Brew. You can get yourself a gift card.
Absolutely. You can go head to head against me and the Hammer as we put up our picks, and the Grand Poobah Mike Perezzini is throwing up his picks. And you have also guys like Greg Godelli, the Monday Morning Fly Half, who throws up his picks. Benji from the Gold Diggers, he throws up his picks. So, you want to play against fans, you want to play against super fans, you want to play against the guys from the Rant, join the Super Brew, baby. We'd love to have you. Guys, I think we had a great Around the Pitch segment here. We love bringing you news. We love bringing you things that we feel are important to the sport of rugby. But guess what, fans? Now we're on to the Rugby Rant, baby.
With over 37 years of experience, American Rugby Outfitters have been dedicated to providing quality rugby gear to those who like to get dirty. The ARO team prides itself in delivering the highest quality rugby gear that will withstand the punishment rugby dishes out. Brands such as Adidas, Barbarian, Gilbert, Canterbury, and ProTech will deliver when the game gets tough. Whether you need team uniforms, boots, bags, field equipment, or swag for the Postmaster Social, ARO is your source for quality rugby gear. They can set up your club or business with a team store like they did for us to ensure every member looks as good as the pros. If the international game is your vibe, ARO will carry you across the line with officially licensed gear from the Eagles, Springboks, All Blacks, England, Ireland, and Wales, amongst others. Visit rugbygear.com and check out all that the folks from American Rugby Outfitters have to offer. Use the code RANT15 to get a 15% discount site-wide. As an added bonus, when the items in your cart are $100 or more, you get free shipping to anywhere in the continental United States. Don't forget to check out our line of Rugby Rant gear available exclusively at rugbygear.com. Don't forget to use RANT15 to get 15% off your order site-wide. American Rugby Outfitters, dedicated to the toughest demands in the world's toughest game.
And welcome back, Rugby Rant fans. It's the big guy again, and we're here for our Rugby Rant segment of the show. We have two great ranters here. They've both been on the show before. We have one lesser ranter here who's kind of to the other side of me. Rob the Hammer Hammerschmidt's still here. I don't know why. We should have kicked him off last segment, but it is what it is. So whatever happens is every time Ty can't come on the show, all of a sudden Scott's doing Ty's business. Rob is still a part of the show, so he can get the win. But I'm not eligible for the win because I can't pick myself. It's I think he's he's got it into Ty's head to say, let's Scott do my. Yeah, it's the mind games. It's the mind games.
So
Anyway.
right now it's pretty much guaranteed I'm not getting the win, fan. So
listen, you might have.
send Scott, DM Scott, and let him know how unhappy.
I'm way more impartial than you and Ty are. I'll put it that way. At several points, Ty has given me 2-3 bonus points, and Rob still magically wins for whatever reason. I guess the check doesn't bounce that week. Anyway, let's talk about the two other ranters we
I don't need
here.
bonus points.
Let's talk about the two other ranters and introduce them. Alex, no nickname Carlson. We were trying to give him a nickname prior. OGDC superfan and coach at Longwood University's with the men's program there. Alex, welcome back.
Hey, thanks very much. I appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks for joining us, Master Chief.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're trying to come up with a nickname, and I don't know. I like the no nickname thing. I kind of like it.
There's probably plenty of nicknames out there. I just don't know if you want to solicit those from some of the people maybe I've worked with, and if they're allowed to be on the internet without a password.
Probably not. Rob would have to bleep a lot of it in our edit. But next to him, our buddy John Cullen, former Utah Warrior. He's also right now the head coach of the Iowa High School Selects Hawkettes, which is the first Iowa women's under 18 union team in the state of Iowa. Welcome back, John.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to be joining you two gentlemen in this forum. Let's go Hawkettes.
He was talking about Master Chief and the big guy. I don't think he was referring to me. I'm no gentleman.
Rob Hammerschmidt, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But anyway, so the first topic we have has been kind of lighting the fire a little bit on social media the past couple of weeks. It's a very interesting topic. It's about attendance, and people seem to think there's lower attendance than there was last year. Last year being a COVID year. I don't know. It's a little weird. I think as far as we're concerned, how are you going to compare attendance to 2020 with 5 matches, right? Compared to 2019, which had a full complement of matches, compared to 2021, which had teams not in their own country playing home matches, to 2022 now, where everybody seems to be a little more situated. So it's very interesting to me that this would even come up at this point. I think it's more of people want to see the league grow. They want to see the league compete with other leagues like MLS and eventually NBA, NHL, MLB, and NFL. So I think while it is a valid question, sometimes to me it seems as though people are picking on the numbers when they don't need to be. But anyway, it's not my rant. I'm not allowed to rant about it because Rob set it up that way. Alex, your 2 minutes starts now.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. And it's a pleasure to be here again. And I think my biggest thing isn't so much as or maybe trying to frame that conversation. I've seen it kind of going back and forth. And I think for me as a fan, as a stakeholder in this, right, is to try and be positive and focus on going forward. I don't really worry so much personally about last year's numbers. I focus on really what's being done deliberately to put fans into the stands. I've heard the butts in seats thing. I think that language though gets very difficult, especially when it's probably the majority of rugby people coming into the stadium, right? So you don't really want to feel like you're being used, right, just to kind of keep it going on. I think where some of these numbers are really low. Yes, there's been some bad weather. Yes, there's some clubs that kind of play in areas that aren't so easy to get to for public transportation and the schedule and once again, without being in a league office or being in a club, any of these teams' offices to see when the schedule's developed, a lot of this is being early in the season here is conflicting with all the spring seasons. Being in the DC area, I know it, I hear it, I listen to it, and every now and then I weigh in on it. But, everybody from youth all the way to college rugby is playing in that, 1, 2, 3 o'clock time slot. So if a game is starting on a Saturday in there, the majority of your fans and the majority of your people are doing rugby things. Your referees, your coaches, your players, your fans, your families. So they're not really going to make that match. And then there's some weird Friday and Sunday things going on too. And, mom and dad, if they got 2 kids, they're not really bringing them to a Sunday night match, if school starts on Monday, especially if people are driving an hour to 2 hours to a match. So that's my 2 cents.
I mean, I think you make decent points there about the scheduling, and it seems to be like a phenomenon on scheduling sometimes, because you talk about, Saturdays, scheduling on Saturdays. And I know me and you have talked about it on social media, on Facebook, complaints this year from some fans about playing, the matches are on Saturday. And I got to be honest, in 2019, a lot of the Rooney fans were complaining that they couldn't go, right? And, it's during the clubs, our club matches and this, that, and the other thing, we can't go. We're not going to be driving, in an opposite direction, play at A side, have a B side, and try and come back for the match. And then funny enough, in 2021 and 2022, these same people are saying, how do you have a match on Sunday? Sunday's not a rugby day. Saturday's a rugby day. So it's, in that case in point, you can't pick, it's like you're going to anger these people, you're going to anger that people. But as far as going on a Sunday night, man, I got the big guy. My father had season tickets to the Mets. We would go to Shea for the Sunday night game. And we drive, an hour or two to Shea, go to the Sunday night baseball game, come back at 2 a.m. And he made sure my butt was in school the next day. So, I mean, diehards will come out to the matches. As far as weather's concerned, for me, again, being from the Northeast, being from New York, playing in Massachusetts in college, dude, it was always cold anyway. So I never understand why people are so against cold weather matches. I think it's a home field advantage if you have those guys that are practicing in it. So to me, you might as well have New England and New York and OGs playing home matches early on. But anyway, Johnny, let's hear what you have to say, bud.
Yeah, the schedule one it's unbeatable. You can't get around that, right? Depending on the region you're in, there's hardly any rugby being played in the spring because they focus on fall, this, that, and the other. I think the league is actually doing a great job with the Friday, Saturday, Sunday options and leaving that open to when it fits in. Can you go on Friday, play on Saturday? Do you have Saturday off, go? Or, hey, Sunday for everyone. But, Scott, me and you kind of joked of, attendance being down as in comparative to what of, when was attendance up? I think we've seen fairly consistently, you can name without hesitation, I'll be friendly, the 3 to 4 teams that have had solid, legitimate attendance basically since year one throughout. Everyone else has always been spotty. I think what you're also seeing, this is the I guess the double-edged sword, right? Where we're moving out of middle school football fields and parks and benches and into stadiums, right? It's 4,000 people in a baseball stadium doesn't look great. 4,000 people at the Coliseum looks really bad. Where those numbers have fluctuated, if someone can make me look bad in the comments, go for it if you have the stats. But I think it goes both ways. The teams that have always had good attendance, to me, from what I've seen on the broadcast at least, all those people are still there. The teams who have been poor at attendance and building that are still in the same scenario. Now, Alex, like you said, what's going on in those front offices and the marketing departments to fix that? I don't know. But it's going to be tough when you have 5,000 people in 20,000 seat stadiums. It's not ever going to look good.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. And I think you have to look at a team like Dallas, right? Dallas in their first years at Choctaw Stadium, which, Rick Collins and Eric Larson, who run the fan group, the Jackal's Den, tell me is a great stadium for rugby. As far as when you're sitting there and watching the rugby, it's great angles. They have the concessions open. They have all the stuff that a minor league stadium would have. But just like you pointed out, I think they had 3,152 people at their inaugural opening match. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I think that was 3 weeks ago, that was the highest attendance for a 2022 MLR match, right? So 3,100 players, 3,200 if you round it up. 3,200 spectators if you round it up. As your best match still isn't going to fill Choctaw Stadium. And I got to be honest, me as a fan, the last couple seasons, Rooney was kind of doing general admission, and I was kind of in my own position where I like to be, kind of away from people, and I could spread out, and I could, live tweet, and I could do some videos. So, I mean, if you have guys like me out there that are going to matches, it's just not going to look good on TV. When Rooney was at MCU Park, it didn't look good on TV for the same reason. MCU, I think, holds like 10,000, and, they were averaging 2,500 people in 2019. So it just doesn't look good. As far as the Friday matches, we had a previous rant, Hammer remembers, about those off-day matches. And I think Friday matches are good as long as you're going into a bye week or you're gonna play a Sunday match or something like that, prior to that, you know what I mean, coming out of a bye week rather, or you played a Saturday match before that, not necessarily a Sunday match to go into a Friday because you're losing that day, plus travel and all that other stuff. So I do like it, and John's right as far as trying to finagle everybody to make sure that they're on a good schedule for TRN. Because I got to be honest, I don't like to watch the replays. I'd rather watch them all live if I can, So it seems as though the East Coast is always going to kind of be on that earlier path, so that way the West Coast teams can be in that what would be prime time East Coast, but it's still 6 o'clock, PM Eastern there, So it's a fine line they're walking, and I accept the fact that if Seattle's playing at home on a Friday night, it's not going to start till 10:30 for me, and I'll either stay up late or I'll watch the replay Saturday morning. But I think it's I think they're getting there. They're kind of riding that line. Rob, what do you say?
Well, first of all, I think you, like everybody else has said, Alex and Johnny Utah there, you have to contextualize what's going on this year. And that's put in the context of COVID season. Teams were on restrictions last year. Obviously, this year, those restrictions for most part have been lifted. And we also have a very different schedule this year than last year, just in terms of placement in the overall calendar, right? I mean, we're starting 6 weeks earlier this year. And I think what people are forgetting is that weather's playing a significant impact, even on the Southern teams, Dallas, Houston, NOLA, for God's sakes, places that you'd think in February should be able to play rugby. They're having particularly cold weather seasons right now. And I know I've talked to Tim Falcon. I've talked to Ryan. I've talked to those guys down in NOLA. And one of the things they've said is that you can't compete with Mardi Gras. Right. I think it's one of the reasons why they learned that in the last couple of years, and they were actually away in Seattle during Mardi Gras week. They purposefully did that because they don't want to compete with Mardi Gras, and try to use that one as one of their home games. But I think we have to take a little different approach.
Players out of there too.
What's that?
Get the players out of there too.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But I think we have to also take a look at this. The league should be considering the aggregate. Okay, the league shouldn't be particularly concerned about individual matches. I mean, I'm not saying ignore it, but I'm just saying what they should be thinking about is, okay, let's analyze the data at the end of the season and take a look across the board and see what we see, right? And think about, should we push the schedule back 2 weeks or 3 weeks to maybe take advantage of a little better weather in the South and in the North, by the way. And then teams should be analyzing, week by week, match by match to see how they can meet the needs of their market, right? Can you have those big D1 games as a curtain raiser, right? Can you find a way to incorporate, like here in Rugby, Illinois, all the middle school teams played them at a festival on Sunday, okay? So we would want to take advantage of, let's get those kids at the festival, have it near a location, and those kids are begging to go to the match in the afternoon after the rugby festival is all done. So it's just finding ways to meet the needs of your market. That's what teams should be doing on an individual game-by-game basis.
And I think you're seeing teams do that. You had LA when they had the sevens tournament, USA women's versus Australia women's. And I mean, as far as I know, there's been curtain raisers at a lot of matches. I know Rudy had a curtain raiser of 2 top 10 high school teams in the country play each other. I got to be honest, me and my dad were on the edge of our seat. It came down to the lower ranked team, right? Yeah, lower ranked because they're ranked number 9, holding up the ball at the death to win the match. You know what I mean? So it was really exciting to watch. And we went there early knowing that was the curtain raiser. I love going to watch the curtain raisers. And so I think they're kind of getting there. And I think you're right. They have to figure out what's good for them on an individual basis. I think that's a great point about the Mardi Gras. They knew they were losing business because people weren't coming to watch the rugby. They were coming to experience Mardi Gras. And I think John's right on his comment. Get the players out of that environment. And not to say that the players are going to go and, party and not be professional. But when everybody around you is partying, maybe you're not in the right mindset to be like, I really need to hunker down right now. It's just that atmosphere might not be the best to say, hey, I'm going to pop somebody on the rugby field versus shit, we're going to Seattle. We'll get there a couple days early and kind of reset and regroup.
So Cully's not speaking from experience here, is he?
Well,
what?
Exactly.
Honestly, on the flip side of that, though, if you can keep your guys in line and you bring a traveling team into the Mardi Gras distraction, then you can really use it to your advantage.
Hey, which reminds me, I'll never forget, we went down to play Atlanta one time, and all our guys that flew down were met by some Atlanta boys, let them stay with them, etc. And they took them out. Everybody got slashed, had a great time, and they showed up all hammered and hung over. Our guys did the next morning when we rucked up to the pitch. All the guys that were ready for Atlanta's team were not the guys that were out the night before partying and having a good time. It was all the second side guys.
Yeah.
They sent you the B side. Come on.
That's a good game of chess right there.
Yeah, mind games. So real quick, so far as I know, Utah actually had the most fans at a 2022 match. Not this past weekend, the weekend before when Dallas came to town. 3,608 people, according to the Utah Warriors. So I mean, I would say if 3,600 is the highest, 32 for Dallas, you're probably averaging somewhere in the 2,000s, maybe just a little bit lower than that. I know stadiums like JFK Stadium in Hoboken only holds like 1,500 people. That's what you're gonna max out at. So that's going to bring your average down a little bit. I think what they need to do, and this is something. So one of my best friends works for a pro football team, right? And his entire job as this PR guy is he goes on the away trips with this football team. He meets the PR guy from the other team, and they talk about what's been working as far as ticket sales, getting people in seats, events that they have in the stadium. And then when they have home games, the away PR guy sits with him and they do this, right? And the NFL encourages this because if it's working for one team in one big market, it might work for another team, right? And why not share the best practices? Now, I know it might not be practical right now in the MLR, but I do think some locales are so similar that there might be some best practices they can use.
And I've argued and supported the same thing for a number for like 2 years. Like, actually, it's not that impractical. If we've learned anything from COVID, not only can the Rugby Rant thrive under these conditions, but you can also do Zoom meetings. Okay, you have your social media people break out and do a Zoom meeting. You have your ticket sales people to break out and do a Zoom meeting. You have your GMs break out. How can we get better eyes on the collegiate game and develop players? I mean, those are all things that you can do over Zoom. It doesn't take a lot of effort and energy to do that. It just takes the commitment from teams as a whole to do that.
100% agree. And that's what's kind of part of my points in driving some of this too is, hey, the weather, I love it, man. That's good rugby weather. I grew up in the Midwest. I like that. I was out there for Old Glory's home opener with my kids, 26, 28 degrees. Season ticket holders, they can suck it up. And
goddamn right.
That's right. They're going to be good little soldiers, and they're going to listen to dad and freeze their butts off. But I'm the same way.
Yes,
right?
sir, Master Chief, sir.
Yeah, my kids, right? My kids will go to those matches because it builds resiliency. You know what I mean? So, but trying to think of the big picture that's what I'd really like to see. I'm like looking backwards. It is what it is. I think John makes a great point about where's the stats to go off of. But just getting people in the room, and you got to punch it out sometimes. So I don't know if what each club has for staff, like who's full-time, who's part-time. But I think Hammer, you nail it, right? Pun intended. At the same time, right? So just get people in a room. You can do it all day. All day, someone's like, you got time for a chat, FaceTime, Zoom, whatever your thing is, just talk to people. They're the internet's giving you the answers. Listen to the fans, right? It's not a complaint box as much as those are just suggestions for success. So take those things, run with it, build community ambassadors, and let them run with the ball a little bit, do a little bit of dirty work for them, show them some gratitude, and then they'll help tell you how to put, fans in the seats.
Alex, I think you hit a great point that maybe is missed in all this is that, number one, you want to engage it's important to engage other teams so that you find out best practices, but our teams, and I've heard this, by the way, that teams are almost afraid to engage some of their core fans and find out what's working for them, what's not working for them. It's almost like they're afraid of negative feedback rather than using it as a positive, something to move forward on, right? They almost fear it. And I think that's dangerous. You've got to be willing to embrace the criticism in order to grow. I mean, it's no different than playing on the rugby pitch, right? If you were perfect all the time, you wouldn't get any better. It's failure that helps us grow and become better.
Absolutely. And I think there's certain clubs that have targeted certain fans, you want to call them super fans, you want to call them, all-star season ticket holders. and they do listen when those fans come up. I mean, I know for me, for a New York perspective, I try and ask everybody what's going on, what they like, what they don't like. I try and give feedback to people when I'm talking to the club and say, hey, I've been hearing this as a common theme for a lot of fans. Is this something we could change? If it's not, okay. But, think about a really good thing to change. So real quickly, I always had this idea for my buddy who works for the NFL team and he shot it down, but I want to hear what you guys think. I was saying get like eHarmony or Plenty of Fish or whatever, Tinder as a sponsor, and you have the, eHarmonymatch.com couple of the game, right? Free tickets don't cost that much. You get them a couple beers, a couple hot dogs, you spotlight them at halftime, and then right there you have a sponsor too, right? Because you're going to have them eHarmony, Match, Tinder, Grinder, whatever, hit you up as the sponsor, right? And then he told me that was a stupid idea. I still think it's
100%. You got it right there. Just market it. You better get on it right after this now, though. It's at ruggersonly.com. You know that,
there you go.
That jingle right there?
Yeah, there you go. And so, John, this is a question as a former player in the MLR and playing in Utah where the weather is a little bit colder in the beginning of the season. This is completely off topic, but I have to ask because we're talking about weather and fans, right? Culturally, on the pitch, we're getting guys from the Southern Hemisphere, right? At this time, their body clock is on summertime. Do they have a hard time adjusting sometimes to those weather temperature drops?
They would depend on when they showed up. So I mean, if you just got over late, then I'm sure, yeah, it's pretty terrible. But at least from my experience, we were always getting guys by at least late December, early January. So obviously Utah's cold. One, they needed to acclimate to the cold and the elevation. So we had guys that, depending on where they were coming from, they had a lot to get used to. But I don't know. I mean, the South Africans probably more than everyone else when you throw them in the cold, they don't like it.
It's just interesting, because
to be fair, the Kiwis play some rugby in some pretty cold, brutal, terrible weather, especially
in
if
the
you're
South Island. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially South Island. If you play in the NPC, you're playing in brutal weather.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, maybe give a hard time. The South Africans and South Americans probably have the hardest time, especially if it's a quick switch. But I mean, they get used to it just as much as everyone else does. They don't have a choice.
So, and this is another thing. Sorry to interrupt you. So, on top of that, on the fans' perspective, I wonder if some of the bigger markets, LA, it's not a problem. San Diego, it's not a problem. New York, it may be a problem. You have a lot of international people who live in New York who may not go to a rugby match because they're used to going to rugby matches in better weather, right? For me personally, growing up in New York, I was always at Giant Stadium, rain, wind, or snow. If they're winning big, if they're losing big, we always stayed till the final whistle. But if you're coming over here from a different culture, I wonder, shoot, do I really want to sit in 20-degree windshield weather on a Sunday to watch Rudy play San Diego, when I could just watch it for free on TRN?
Well, I think it's going to be hard to get the converts, the people that you're trying to convert over from other sports. I mean, sure, here in Chicago, people are idiots when there's a Bears game, right? And Packers are the same way. They're a big guy. I mean, people will go when it's downright snowing sideways to go to a Bears game, but there's a built-in culture there. It's something that people have embraced. It's part of that experience. Until we get those converts embedded into our sport, it's going to be difficult to actually get them to do that. It's going to be idiots like us that go there no matter what, that will embrace that.
You bring up a good point because the teams embrace it, right? When you think about the monsters of the Midway, you see Dick Buckus in the big coat and it's snowing and you see his breath. I mean, the frozen tundra. So the team, it seems as though the teams in the MLR won't embrace the cold.
The Bears are talking about moving to Arlington Heights, right? And one of the big debates here in Chicago and all the sports radio is, do we want to cover dome? And there are people that are going, no, it's the home field advantage and we love it. And that's Bears weather and all this stuff. And you got some other people are going like, there's no such thing as Bears weather. Let's not be stupid. You want to enjoy it from, in a nice, comfortable seat and everything else. So there is that real debate in here amongst Bears fans. And I often wonder what the split is, but there are people that will go no matter what, and they love and enjoy that crap weather.
Well, man, I got a lot to think about. You guys made some great points.
I can always speak.
Go ahead, John.
John, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's in Iowa time right now.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you guys froze. I'm kind of on Rob's side. I can speak for Utah fans. Obviously, built in to the culture. I mean, Utah football games, BYU football games. You sit in the snow, you watch it. I think I'm a little biased, probably, and favoritism. I think we have a pretty solid fan base. Whenever you watch a Warriors game, it's pretty full. The crowd's pretty loud. Most teams talk about what it's like to play there. So, I mean, when we have cold games, Utah people are a little crazy. They get even more excited and show up and get louder and somehow stay warm.
Yeah. So I think it's on the teams to embrace some of this stuff that is evident that if we're going to start the season in mid-February, maybe push for a home game.
It's just as terrible watching a game in NOLA or Houston in July.
Yeah,
who the hell wants to do that?
No, you're right. Although I think they can control that a little bit by playing games at night. Again, I had the conversation with Tim Falcon. He said that's one thing that they could do. Is it still hot? Hell yeah, it's still hot. But you don't have the heat coming off the pitch like you would do at midday. It's going to be a little bit easier to bear.
Before we take this word from our sponsors, one thing I do want to say is when we saw those games last year in Houston, in Austin, in NOLA, some of those kickoffs were like 5:00. And I noticed as you got into the second half and it was round 6 or 7 and the sun went down, the condensation on that ball got slippery, and the amount of handling errors that went on in the second half for both teams that were playing didn't make the rugby look good. So I'm wondering, do you schedule that 7 p.m. instead of that 5 p.m. slot?
Right.
That is a great point. That is a weather pattern that is not spoken about. People talk about rain and snow and all this stuff. I was like, once you're wet, you're wet. When you talk about the change in like your body composition and it's that nasty Jersey sweat slime that's covered that ball, there's no worse weather than human sweat. Like rain and snow is fine. You can suck it up. Your hands are cold. You just get nastiness on that ball. That's the worst weather pattern there is. People.
And it seems it's always the same 3 balls. It's not like they really exchange balls like the NFL. So, but guys,
you're not swapping them out.
Absolutely not. But all great points, man. This is a hard one to say who won because you each kind of came at it a different way. But this is going to be a hard one. So real quick, we're going to go to our sponsors and let's keep the lights on, baby. Hey, everybody, it's the big guy. I'm here to talk to you about our partner, Aversio Wellness. Aversio means change. Their mission is to change lives through fungi. Functional mushrooms are having a moment in 2022 because they offer 2 things that we all need most right now. The first thing is long-term stress support. The second thing is long-term immune support. Right now, many athletes have a secret weapon. They're powered by mushrooms. Warrior can be taken daily to help your body utilize more oxygen efficiently by improving lung capacity and enhancing blood flow. The big guy takes it, the hammer takes it, and Ty the Safa Braga take it. Cordyceps mushroom extract is the ideal addition to your routine if you're looking to optimize energy and endurance. So do us a favor, go to AversioWellness.com and get 15% off your entire order by using the code RANT15. And that way, when you order your Balance or your Chill or your Awaken, your Defend, or your Warrior products, you can get 15% off. Help us, help you. Go to AversioWellness.com, use the code RANT15, get your 15% off. Tell them the big guy sent you. Welcome back, Rugby Rant fans. Oh, man, it's the big guy, Scott Ferrara. Got Rob the Hammer Schmidt on this side, rather. And we have our RPK segment of the show. It's one of my favorite segments because I love talking to the guys that we have on our show. And we, of course, have a NOLA Gold player here because Rob's on the show. If it's not a NOLA Gold player, it's a Rooney player. Devin Short, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. And real quick, just run down Devin's CV before Rob talks about how the run, pass, or kick works. Devin picked up the game in 2016. He was a high school All-American, USA under 20s at the Rugby World Championship, under 21 Blue Bulls. Excuse me, it's late for me, guys, so I'm kind of
be careful with that one.
Yeah, exactly. Former San Diego Legion player. I saw him knocking the ball around at the PR7s in Memphis with our buddy Patrick Madden, and currently of the NOLA Gold. Seasoned rugby player, although he's only been playing for, what most people would term a short while. But listen, more illustrious career than me and Rob, got to be quite honest.
For sure. So it's great to have you on, Devin. Welcome to the show. I always enjoy getting the NOLA boys on here and giving them an opportunity to just get themselves a little bit more familiar with the fans. So let's get into it a little bit. But before we do, for the fans watching at home that have yet to see a run, pass, or kick interview style, it works a little like this. Scott and I are going to have some questions for D Short here. We're going to frame them all with run, pass, or kick. Devin's going to go us and tell us what he's going to do. If he says he's going to run a question, it means he's going to take it straight up. And man, if you saw him run this last weekend, we know that he likes to run the ball and get into the dirty contact. That's for sure. So I'm sure we'll see some running with some questions, but he also, like any good and masterful rugby player, has to be able to pass the ball as well. And he can choose to pass on a question. Maybe it's a question he doesn't want to get in trouble with Fitz. So he's going to leave it alone. I don't know. But he can pass a question, or he can have a little fun with us, put us on the back foot. And he doesn't kick too much on the pitch, but he can always kick in the run, pass, or kick interview. And all that means, if he chooses to kick a question, he's going to kick it to either Scott and myself. And so he can direct his kick by telling us which one he wants to answer it. Or if he doesn't choose to kick it and lets us opt for it, it's whoever asked the question. So Devin Short, are you ready for the run, pass, or kick interview challenge?
Let's get it.
All right,
Scott. I have to practice my kicking for PR7.
There you go. Absolutely.
Can't go to the championship again.
Absolutely. I was there. I watched the tiebreaker, which was always a tiebreaker for my club in D4. Only time I ever kicked for points was that once. I won for 100% conversion on that. I'll take that to the grave with me. I get the honor of the first question this time, which rarely happens. You guys rarely, I'm rarely on the RPK segments because, I look like this. But anyway, so the first question. So last season, you were selling Devin Short custom socks. We know that these were a big hit with the young ladies, Devin. But run, pass, or kick, was it weird to get an order from an old man named Rob from Chicago?
That's unfair.
I think I'm gonna run with this one. I got a pair right here for you, big guy. If you really want them,
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. When you guys come up to New York, bring them with you because I'll be there.
I got you, man. But yeah, I love the support. Rob's always coming down to the NOLA and, hyping up the boys. And, he's a big supporter of the guys. So, any support that I can get is loved, and I appreciate it. It is usually better when it's a girl, but I'll help out the big guys too.
I don't take offense to that at all. But we also had the opportunity to vote for you for Muscle and Fitness, right? You were up for a Muscle and Fitness appearance or award, and I know I was throwing that shot out quite a bit to help you out in that endeavor.
Yeah, that one was fun. It was a so at least I got to think the final round, or the second to final round, and which was a lot further than I thought I was actually really gonna make it, but it went to a Wounded Warrior guy, which they were the ones putting it on, so I wasn't very mad about it.
Can't be too upset at that one.
Exactly.
So, Scott mentioned in your CV that you started playing at, the age of 16, and you really taken that into consideration. You haven't really played for as long a time as many of those guys that have been playing for quite some time. I don't know if you ever played with him. You played with him in the Loggerheads, right? Guy Patrick Madden has been playing since, he was in diapers, I believe. So you've had a really meteoric rise since you started playing. So run, pass, or kick, at what point did you say, yeah, I want to be a professional rugby player?
I'm going to run with this one. I'm going to say it was, when after I made the team and made the top 15 at Rocky Mountain Challenge when I was playing for here at SoCal. that was only, I want to say, 4 months after starting. And, I was going to these high level tournaments as a youth guy still technically. And I'm making like the top select squads, and I'm making like top tournament squads, stuff like that. And then I had the opportunity to go play high school Americans. And after making that team in under 6 months of starting, I was like, I feel like I could really do something with this sport. But I was already committed to play football at Adams State University. So, you commit, you sign that. So I'm not going to take back my commitment. So I went and played, got hurt, and I was just like, yeah, this is not for me. I don't want to play football anymore. I'm in love with rugby. So I ended up dropping out and just put my head down and started grinding out the rugby. And I was like, I feel like I could really do something with this sport, and I'm just gonna do what I can to really take it where I want to.
Yeah, and I think your story is more similar to most Americans playing rugby than maybe Patrick's is. Although Patrick's, has that technical experience to play, one of those spine positions there because he's been playing for so long and at such a high level. I just find it interesting, you kind of hit the ground running as far as learning the sport, playing at a high level at the youth level, then transferring it over to a professional level after college versus me, who picked it up in college, sucked for 4 years, and then continued to suck at the men's league level. There was no meteoric rise. It was just a desperate slump of sucking, except for that one kick. But yeah, I think most, that was my experience too. I learned, way back when in 2002 in high school about rugby. A teacher taught me, he's like, oh, this is rugby. You might like it, and then I got experience of watching the All Blacks and the Eagles every so often. And, I could see a parallel for most guys I talk to, right, Rob? I mean, you kind of have the same, your kids are a little more born into it, because you're on the club scene, right? But really, getting to the higher levels was more in the college and not at the youth level. So,
Right.
Yeah, I definitely wish I would have started earlier to get more of the skills down. Because I'm going on my 5th year professional, and I'm still perfecting my catch pass. Still working on the small things where I feel like I was able to develop. You never stop learning, but I would have been a little bit more developed than I was. But that's a part of the journey.
Absolutely. I mean, I spoke to Sam Windsor.
Better.
Yeah, I spoke to Sam Windsor this past weekend at the Rooney match, and he said the same thing. I mean, he's at the end, the long end of his career, playing the game since he was young, and he's still learning things, and he still talks about kicking into the wind, and there's things I could do differently and learn better. So I think it's just always going to be an ongoing thing to try and perfect your rugby play. So on to the next question. We're talking about your experience. You spent some time playing for the under 20 Blue Bulls, and you were 19 years old. So this is a 2-part question: run, pass, or kick. How did the opportunity come about, and what did you take away from the experience?
So I'm gonna run with this one. I got the opportunity from San Diego. We'd finished up the 2019 season. We were kind of down bad after losing that one. It was kind of a tough one to take. But I'm still a young developing player. I was only in my 2nd year, and they wanted to send me down there to kind of help me develop my skills as a back rower. So I was able to go down there, play with the Naka Bulls, and played under Coach Moranis. And it taught me a breakdown, and it was a huge opportunity. I loved it. You go down there and you get to experience a different style of rugby that you don't really see in the States. They're a lot more hard nosed, run it straight, like big breakdowns. So it was cool being able to experience that style of rugby and trying to apply it to my developing style.
Absolutely. And we, like I said, we saw a bit of that this last weekend. You were like a rampaging bull when you both against Seattle and then just past weekend. So against Dallas. So moving on to the next question, you touched upon a little bit. The San Diego Legion provided that platform for you to begin your career in the MLR. looking back, is there anything you would have done differently in your time there, run, pass, or kick?
I think I'll run with this one. I don't, it's tough because, being a 19, 20, 21-year-old living in San Diego for free and just playing professional rugby, it's tough to take back really just because it's experience, it's life experience. I'm playing rugby at a high level, but I'm still young and I want to be able to live and enjoy my time. Like, I feel like if I was to really do anything better, I would focus more on my basics, do the extras, not just try and go to practice, do everything that I need to there, and then just try and actually talk to the coaches, get the drills, do the extras after practice, not try and just get home and go to the beach, hang out, But yeah, I loved my time down there. It was great. Got to build a little bit of a life with the guys, just grow up and kind of get mature, learning from the guys like Ryan Matty and Oxberger. And then, 2020 season, you got Mondo, where it's like, whoa, like he was the first rugby highlight I've ever watched in my life, and, so it's cool. Just, I would say being able to really soak up that experience and focus on the basics from the guys who have been doing it.
Yeah, well, San Diego couldn't have sucked, that's for sure, in terms of a lifestyle for a young guy. But I think the important lesson there for those young guys that are listening and taking note is you talked about doing the extras, those little things, whether it's just, before practice, getting those extra, passing reps in with both the left and the right hand to develop your passing skill set, to, getting a couple other guys and doing a 2v1 drill or 2v3 drill or something like that, just to, again, develop your skill set. So I think those are important lessons for young guys to learn, that you can always do a little bit of extras to develop your game. So, Scott, we were talking a little bit with Devin about his athleticism outside of rugby. I think you have a question that marries up with that pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. So this question, I think, is one of those questions that this is how we need to grow the sport, right? We talk about rugby-tainment, and what we've coined here on the Rugby Rant is crossover fans, but now we're talking about crossover athletes. So, Devin, as a young boy, you played both football and you also wrestled. Run, pass, or kick. What does the rugby community need to attract kids like yourself to the sport?
I'm gonna run with this one because this is kind of an important one. I played a lot of different sports growing up. I grew up playing baseball. I played football, ran track. Played volleyball. I was in the marching band. I was one to do everything. And I feel like many try to be a master of one instead of a master of all, which rugby, you can kind of be a master of all within one. That you're not just focused on one thing, and it's not just written out you do this and you do this, you do this. It's like a big boy can carry a ball, and a big boy can make the tackles as well as the small kid who's maybe not as big as this guy, but he's over here being able to be the scrum half, be the chippy scrum half, who can take the A gaps and look for the offloads and make passes and all that stuff. It's a very enticing sport to every the athlete, because I was having this conversation with a couple of guys, and it's how in FIFA you can choose players, and it has the little circle, and it has all the different kick, power,
branches,
speed, stamina. I feel like rugby, you'd have the most the widest circle
range
to be
of
the best. Yeah, because you honestly have to do everything. You have to have stamina as well as strong, as well as be physical, as well as be accurate in your skills. So I feel like if you want to play a sport that's fun and teases the mind as well as the body, that's sport.
Absolutely. And we were kind of ingest busting your chops about kicking, but between chip kicks, between grubber kicks, between being on a sevens team and having to have a tie break in the championship where everybody has to kick for a conversion. If you're a big guy that's not used to kicking, you still have to have that skill in your back pocket because you never know what's
You
going to
might have
happen.
an opportunity to do it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, viewers, we're going to take a quick word from our sponsor and we'll be right back.